Hello, chess friends, and welcome to your Art of Chess channel, and welcome back to the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour finals in 2022. So we're still in the day 3, and we're following now a beautiful game between Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa and Quang Liem. In my opinion, this game is really instructive because it shows actually how one tiny little inaccuracy can cost you almost the whole game, because there are the structural weaknesses that you can create in your own position, and one of the most important structural weaknesses that you can create is, of course, the isolated pawn. And there are certain rules how to play against the isolated pawn and how to play with the isolated pawn. So I think for those who have maybe trouble about chess strategies and about chess tactics, this is a beautiful game. Although it's a rapid time format game, but I think for those who want to learn more, this is really a perfect example how things can go wrong if you don't play correctly with these types of structures. So let's check out now the game. So as we said, Prague versus Quang Liem, and Prague opened here with the move d4. Quang Liem's response was knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3, and after bishop to b4, we have now the Nimzo-Indian defense on the board. So here Prague goes into the so-called normal line. We have now kingside castling, knight to f3, and now after move c5, you see here white is already challenged in the center of the board, but Prague is not reacting. He plays simply bishop to d3 and is preparing now kingside castling. So nothing special so far. Here Quang Liem pulled off the move d5, immediately breaking in the center of the board. We have now the so-called Gligoric variation, and what to do here whenever you face this kind of a pawn storm in the center of the board, when you have this collision with pawns in the center of the board, you should always evaluate, of course, the potential outcome of this trades of pawns. So that's why, first of all, what Prague is doing here, he plays c takes d5. After e takes d5, he plays now a very interesting choice, d takes c5, and is keeping now, of course, black with an isolated pawn, which is when we talk about strategies and in the long run a structural weakness. And there are certain rules how to play, of course, with an isolated pawn and how to play against the isolated pawn. One of the main strategies of white is, of course, to play maneuvers like knight to e2 and then to play knight to d4, keeping the position around the square d4 compact. Never, but really never allow your opponent to break and enter with the move d4. On the other hand, black's idea is, of course, to finally solve the positional problems of the isolated pawn. Black is trying to break and enter with the move d4, or in some occasions, don't forget about it, even to leave the pawn unprotected, because we can agree, I think, that sometimes this pawn is even standing in the way. Many times we're just trying to defend this pawn and we're playing really passively with our own pieces. So we'll come to that point when actually it was very important, maybe even to sacrifice the isolated pawn just in order to keep a good activity then in the later stage of the game. So we have here knight to d7 by Quang Liem. He's hitting the pawn on c5. He's trying to get his pawn back, but he wants to stay with the bishop on b4, where it's keeping here the pin against the knight on c3. We have now kingside castling, knight to c5, attacking now the bishop on d3. If you play bishop to c3, this wasn't played in the game, but let's see now what happens if you maybe create also here in white's camp an isolated pawn. The problem, I think, here in this line is after potential knight to c5, you get pinned by bishop to a3. Now you have to protect, and after bishop to c5, queen to c5, queen to b3, again, white will continue with this common blockade idea with the move knight to d4. Will eventually maybe even have the opportunity to break and enter with the move c4. b6 is weak. We can play a4, a5, maybe some kind of a minority attack here. But I think the blockade idea around the square d4 would be perfectly fine here for white. I'm not saying white is winning for sure here, but in my opinion, it's much easier again to play the game from white's perspective. So as we said, after move kingside castling here, Quang Liem didn't take out the knight. He took now here the pawn on c5, and he attacks now a very powerful piece, the powerful bishop on d3. But now Prague makes a huge reaction. He plays now this blockade idea, knight to e2. He tries to be compact around the square d4. He's never now allowing black to advance the pawn on d4 and improve his isolated pawn structure. In the continuation, we have now knight to d3. Why not? In my opinion, a good choice here by Quang Liem. He got rid of this very powerful bishop, which controlled this diagonal. After queen to d3, now comes, in my opinion, already the critical moment of this particular game. Bishop to e6 was, in my opinion, such a tiny little positional mistake here by Quang Liem. It doesn't seem in the beginning that something is special here about this move, but a better way to go, and I wanted to show you how you should actually play with the isolated pawn, how you should play really in a dynamic way, not in this passive way, because you have the bishop pair. Now you don't care about pawns anymore. You don't care about I don't know, squares and pieces. You just care about piece activity, about potential attacks, about destroying now your opponent with some heavy artillery here. So a better way to go is now to play the move knight to e4, liberating simply still this diagonal for the light square bishop. This knight on e4 can still be protected with the move f5, and we're trying to get the bishop on g4. Look how the bishop has a tough time to get out, because the knight on e4 and also the bishop on b4 are controlling now here the square d2. For instance, let's see what happens if white continues now the plan rook to d1, simply keeping the pressure against the isolated pawn. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show just a cool method how to play, as I said, with the isolated pawn. Now we play bishop to g4 actively, leave even the pawn hanging, and now with queen to e7, perfect setup here, I think. Although you're down a pawn, but look at this. I'm not sure how white is going to play now the game. Rook to d8 is going to happen. Rook to c8. With just one tiny little improvement of the knight on e4, I think black could have really already a devastating attack against white's position. So this is the way to go when you have the bishop pair. Here I think bishop to e6 simply too passive, and Praggnanandhaa is saying, okay, you didn't challenge me here with bishop to g4, you didn't play knight to e4, you didn't challenge my center, now I just develop my piece. b3, we have queen to e7, bishop to b2, and here Quang Liem, okay, he's trying to get rid of this very powerful bishop. It's of course a good move, nothing wrong with this move, but actually you lost your main strength that you have had in the position. You had your beautiful bishop pair, you had a beautiful potential bishop's activity with both of these monstrous bishops. Now you're trading off another bishop, and you're keeping now the game with such a bad bishop here on e6. In my opinion, from this point on, already it's a one-way ticket. For instance, even if you try now to play knight to e4, look how bad now actually here black's position is. Then you get simply knight to f4, very nice square for the knight. Even if you try some ideas of bishop to f5, maybe finally to play actively with this piece, actually with queen to d4, look at this. This is already a messed up position. You cannot even cover this diagonal. With f6, you lose the pawn on d5. So see, now it's not possible anymore to leave the protection of the d5 square. It's now a different story. This is not working anymore. So that's why after move bishop to b2, bishop to a3 was played. Quang Liem tries now to simplify the game by trading off some pieces, and Praggnanandhaa accepts the challenge. Bishop to a3, queen to a3, h3, not allowing really ever this bishop to come into the game. Now the bishop is just stuck. It's just a part of the pawn chain here. It's nothing special. It's now really a bad bishop in the continuation of the game. So you see how one tiny little move, bishop to e6, which is a solid move, which is a defending move, but now I'm not seeing good ways how, as I said, white should make progress in black should make progress in this particular position. So rook from a to c8, knight to f4, hitting the bishop, queen to a5, knight to g5. Look how the knights are dancing. These are really cool knights. They're attacking already the king, and already the serious tactical threat is of course to play knight to h5, deflecting the knight from the square h7, and maybe even the whatever checkmate here with the queen and the knight. So this is really a brilliant tactical play now by Ramesh Babu Praggnanandhaa. So we have here rook to c6, we have rook to c1, attacking now finally the rook. You have to make now some kind of a competition now on the c file, and this was a brave idea here by Praggnanandhaa, but here Praggnanandhaa shows actually again his great tactical skills, because many of us would worry about this pawn on a2, but queen takes a2 is not possible. You have to stay with your queen on the fifth rank, because both of these knights could come on the fifth rank. We'll come to that part, why is it so important to keep the queen really on the fifth rank. But now even if you take out, let's see, queen to a2, then comes this idea, knight to h5. You have to play now knight to e4, and now with queen to d4, we're hitting again the pawn on g7. You have to play some weird ideas of f6. You can of course play some ideas of knight to f6, but we'll simply play knight takes f6, g takes f6, queen to f6. If you cover yourself with the move f6, knight to e6, rook takes e6, and now queen to d5 would, I think, simply win the game. You can protect, of course, this rook for a while, but knight to f4 is simply winning the game. So you see how great calculations are here by Praggnanandhaa. He calculated this really in a fast way. Really wild stuff how he sensed that actually he could leave his pawn on a2 unprotected. So really great tactical play. So that's why here after rook from a to c1, here Quang Liem sensed there is some tension. That's why he included now this other rook into the game. We have a rook to c6, a rook to c6, and now knight to h5, again with the same motif, trying to deflect the knight here from the defense. If you take, of course, it's not a checkmate. Still the king can escape, but now after king to f8 would just pick up the knight on h5, and of course still white is much better. So that's why after move knight to h5, we have here knight to e4, queen to d4, again with the same motif here by Praggnanandhaa. This is really horsing around in front of Black's king. Really, these knights are so powerful. They're so devastating with the support of the queen. They're creating really some great tactical threats. So queen to c3 here. Quang Liem is trying to somehow protect this position, to somehow simplify the game by trading off more pieces. And of course here after knight to e6, you cannot take out now the queen because knight to d4 will still come here and you gain the piece. If you play, of course, something like pardon me, rook to e6, then we simply pick up this pawn, and this pawn is hanging, so it's a devastating game for black. So after move knight to e6, here we have f takes e6, but now Praggnanandhaa again took the pawn, and maybe this is nothing special, but in my opinion this is a completely winning endgame here because of the fact that the king is endangered. We have here the f7 weakness. The weak pawn is here still on e6. The knight is much more active. You have several backrank problems, and still you didn't protect your pawn on b7. So simply too many weaknesses in black's position, too many structural and also tactical weaknesses. I think this is simply a lost game already here for black. In the continuation, we have now knight to d2, attacking the rook, rook to d1, and now Quang Liem played an interesting idea, queen to c1. He was hoping for this scenario, rook to c1, then rook takes c1, and now you could get this kind of a beautiful perpetual. You could always deliver checks, and the king cannot escape, so it would be a draw. But Praggnanandhaa, of course, sensed this tactical problem. He didn't react to this move, queen to c1. What Praggnanandhaa has to make now somehow is connect this queen somehow to this rook. So he has now to protect this rook. This was a beautiful now tactical sequence that Praggnanandhaa played here. He played now queen to b8, first a check. You have to now play king to f7, now queen to b7, again a check. We have now king to e8, knight to g7, very important move. We have king to f8, now after a couple of checks, here Praggnanandhaa plays another check, again a new check, and now finally queen to h5. The queen is connected to the rook. Really great sequence. He gained some material, he gained some pawns, and now he settled down, he slowed down the pace of the game, and has now, of course, completely winning endgame. So queen to b2, queen to e2, getting the queen into the game. Rook to c1, we have king to h2, getting out of this attacks by the knight. We have rook to d1, queen to d1. Now here Quang Liem grabbed that pawn, but now knight to e6. Here Praggnanandhaa is getting the pieces again into the game. We have king to d6, knight to f4, d4, e takes d4. Okay, there were maybe some other better moves, but we can agree, I think this is simply losing. There's white simply gained too much material in this sequence. We have e takes d4, knight to b3, queen to d3, attacking now the knight. We have queen to f2. Now Praggnanandhaa simply took the knight. Here Quang Liem also took the knight, but now after queen to g3 in this position, black resigned. The queens have to be traded now, and you'll be occupied by taking out this pawn. Praggnanandhaa will simply take out this pawn. We have now the supported pass pawn. If, of course, white takes out somehow this pawn, we'll just march with this one, and the game is over. This is now completely winning endgame here for white. So great attack, I think, by Praggnanandhaa. But I think Quang Liem had really a hard time after this unnecessary move. Let's go back to this critical moment. Bishop to e6. So as I said, it seems like a good move. It seems like a solid move. You're protecting everything. But as I said, here maybe knight to e4. Getting the bishop into the game. Look, the rook to d1. Okay, we're just sacrificing one pawn, and now with queen to e7. Okay, I'm not saying you win this game for sure if you play the game like this, but I think the activity that you gain for the lost pawn is brilliant, especially when you're playing with the black pieces. I think this could be a perfect position for you to play. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I enjoyed it really, really a lot because there were some ideas of the Nimzo-Indian that I think you could face if you, of course, play this beautiful opening. Praggo won his game against Quang Liem. He won the first 3 games, so of course he was the winner of this match. He has still good chances to maybe to have a good result in this tournament so far. He of course lost 1 game so far, but as I said, Praggo is a strong player. He can make something really special maybe in this beautiful chess event. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. If you want to see some other games that we have covered so far, here are some links of some analysis that we have seen before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.